Used or new? Synthetic or conventional? Car people love to argue, and these debates never die. Today, we're diving into 10 car debates that even mechanics still can't agree on. And we're not talking armchair mechanics. This is stuff that even guys like Scotty Kilmer, ChrisFix, Car Wizard, and Car Care Nut go back and forth on. Stick around, because we'll cover everything from the age-old oil change debate to whether CVTs are doomed from the start. And don't forget to join the debate in the comments. Number 1. Used versus new cars. This is probably the debate that starts before you even set foot in a dealership. Do you buy brand new, or do you hunt for something used? On one hand, new cars are tempting. Shiny paint, 0 miles, factory warranty, and that smell that people swear is addictive. You know exactly what you're getting, no mystery accidents, no hidden rust, no sketchy Craigslist seller who swears the check engine light just came on yesterday. For someone who values peace of mind, a new car feels like the safest bet. But then there's the reality of depreciation. The moment you drive off that lot, you're losing thousands. For example, a $35,000 car can easily be worth under $30,000 within the first year, sometimes even less. And that's why mechanics and car experts constantly argue about this. If you ask Scotty Kilmer, he'll tell you buying new is financial insanity. Why eat the biggest chunk of depreciation when you could let someone else do it? A well-kept used car with full service records often gives you 80 to 90% of the life for maybe half the price. Car Wizard, on the other hand, often reminds people that used cars are a gamble. Even if they look good on the surface, you could be inheriting problems someone else wanted to dump. That's why mechanics themselves can't agree, because the answer depends on what you value. If you're someone who can't stand the thought of surprise repairs, new might be worth the premium. But if saving money and avoiding that massive depreciation hit is more important, used cars will always win. Number 2. Dealer service versus independent shops. This one gets really heated because it touches on trust. And once you lose trust in a mechanic, it's hard to ever go back. Dealer service centers have the brand name, factory-trained techs, and specialized equipment. If you've got a new Toyota or BMW, taking it back to the dealer often feels like the safe move. They know the recalls, they've got the OEM parts right on hand, and the work usually comes with a warranty. That peace of mind is tough to beat. But independents? That's where the debate flips. Independent shops are often run by career mechanics who know cars inside and out, not just one brand. They might take more time, charge less per hour, and, at least for some customers, feel more honest than a dealer trying to upsell services. Good independent shops can absolutely go toe-to-toe with a dealership, and in some cases even beat them, because the work is more personal and less driven by corporate sales targets. The problem is good is the keyword. Not every independent shop is created equal, just like not every dealership is out to rip you off. If you talk to 5 different mechanics, half of them will swear dealers are rip-off artists, while the other half will say independent shops cut corners. But if you value long-term relationships, lower labor costs, and maybe a mechanic who knows your car by name, an independent might be the smarter choice. By the way, which side are you on in these debates? Drop a comment below. Do you swear by synthetic oil, or are you team cheap and frequent changes? Make sure you hit that like button if you've ever gotten into one of these arguments at the garage. Number 3. Oil change intervals, 3,000 miles versus 10,000 miles. Ah, yes, the oil change debate. If there's one argument that's been passed down like a family recipe, it's this one. For decades, the golden rule was every 3,000 miles, change the oil. That advice was drilled into drivers' heads by quick lube shops, service manuals, and mechanics who swore it was the only way to keep the engine alive. And to be fair, back when oil technology wasn't nearly as advanced, it made sense. Cheap conventional oil breaks down faster, engines weren't as efficient, and frequent changes were like cheap insurance. But times have changed. Modern synthetic oils are designed to last way longer. Some manufacturers even recommend 7,500 to 10,000 miles between changes. Engines are built with tighter tolerances, computer monitoring systems check oil quality, and the science backs it up. For instance, ChrisFix has done oil analysis tests showing that synthetic oil can hold up surprisingly well over long intervals. Still, some mechanics don't buy it. They'll tell you manufacturers push long intervals just to make ownership look cheaper on paper. But in the long run, it's the car owner who pays the price. And honestly, Scotty Kilmer is one of those voices. He'll still tell you with his usual energy that oil is cheap, engines are expensive, change it often. So who's right? Well, if you're driving an older car or you plan to keep yours until the wheels fall off, shorter intervals are the safer bet. But if you've got a newer model and you trust synthetic oil, you can usually go longer without worry. It all comes down to whether you value absolute caution or whether you're fine trusting the science and saving a little money along the way. Number 4. Synthetic versus conventional oil. And that naturally brings us to the next debate. What kind of oil should you even be using? Synthetic versus conventional has been argued in every garage since synthetic first hit the shelves. Synthetic oil has clear advantages. It flows better at cold temperatures, holds up under heat, resists sludge, and often lets you extend intervals. It's the go-to choice for modern engines, especially those with turbos, direct injection, or high compression. But not everyone thinks it's necessary. Some mechanics will point out that if you're driving a 20-year-old sedan with 200,000 miles on it, conventional oil isn't going to suddenly destroy your engine. In fact, for cars that are already on their last leg, the extra cost of synthetic may not be worth it. Car Care Nut often leans towards synthetic, especially for cars built in the last decade, since many modern engines were engineered with synthetic in mind. But it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. If you value ultimate protection and you want your car to last as long as possible, synthetic is almost always the smarter choice. But if you're on a tight budget, driving an old beater you don't plan to keep long-term, conventional oil still gets the job done. Number 5. Transmission flushes. This one really splits mechanics in half. On paper, a transmission flush sounds like a great idea. Push out all the old fluid, pump in fresh fluid, and your transmission should thank you with years of smooth shifting. In fact, some dealerships practically treat it like a routine service. But here's where the fight begins. Many mechanics argue that flushing an old transmission, especially one that hasn't been maintained, can actually do more harm than good. Imagine years of gunk and debris settling in the system, keeping worn clutches and seals in place. Then you blast it all out with high-pressure fluid. Suddenly, the transmission that felt fine yesterday is slipping or refusing to shift today. CarWizard has seen plenty of cars towed in right after a flush for exactly that reason. On the flip side, if you've been on top of maintenance from the start, flushing isn't really dangerous. ChrisFix has shown step-by-step fluid exchanges on cars that ran smoother afterward. The key difference is whether you're maintaining a healthy transmission or trying to revive a neglected one. So, the rule of thumb? If you've been changing your transmission fluid regularly, a flush or exchange can keep it happy. But if you're sitting at 150,000 miles on the original fluid, a flush might do more harm than good. If you value caution, do a simple drain and fill. If you value the clean slate approach and your car's been maintained, flushing might work just fine. Number 6. OEM versus aftermarket parts. Another classic debate. When something breaks, do you stick with OEM parts or go aftermarket? OEM or original equipment manufacturer parts are the exact same ones your car rolled off the assembly line with. They fit perfectly, they're tested by the automaker, and they come with some peace of mind. That's why dealerships always push them. But OEM parts can be expensive, and here's the kicker. Not all OEM parts are necessarily the best. In some cases, automakers source parts from third-party companies and just slap their logo and a higher price on them. That's where aftermarket comes in. There are cheap aftermarket parts that are junk, sure, but there are also high-quality aftermarket brands that actually outperform OEM. For instance, certain brake and suspension parts from well-known aftermarket suppliers are trusted by mechanics because they're stronger and last longer than the factory versions. If you ask Scotty Kilmer, he'll warn you against going cheap aftermarket, especially when it comes to electronics and sensors, where bad quality can throw your whole car into chaos. But at the same time, even Scotty admits that some aftermarket options are perfectly fine if you do your homework. So what's the right choice? If you value guaranteed fit and quality, OEM is worth paying more for. But if you're budget conscious and you know which aftermarket brands to trust, you can save a ton of money without sacrificing performance. It really depends on whether peace of mind or cost savings matters more to you. Number 7. CVTs. If you've ever been in a car debate, CVTs, or continuously variable transmissions, are almost guaranteed to come up. Some people swear they're the future of efficiency, while others act like they're the automotive equivalent of a ticking time bomb. On the bright side, CVTs make sense. Instead of fixed gears, they use belts and pulleys to constantly adjust the gear ratio. which means smoother acceleration and better fuel economy. But then there's the downside. A lot of mechanics will tell you that CVTs just don't have the same long-term durability as a good old-fashioned automatic. When a CVT goes bad, it's usually not a simple fix. You're often looking at a full replacement, which can cost thousands. And that's where the debate gets heated. If you ask Scotty Kilmer, he'll tell you to avoid CVTs like the plague, especially if you plan on keeping the car for a long time. On the other hand, Car Care Nut has pointed out that CVTs aren't automatically doomed. With regular fluid changes and gentle driving, many can last well past 150,000 miles. The problem is, most people don't maintain them properly, and by the time issues come up, it's already too late. So who's right? Well, if you value smoothness and fuel economy, a CVT might be perfectly fine. But if you care about long-term durability and cheap repairs, a traditional automatic or manual is the safer bet. Number 8. Turbo engines. Few topics fire up mechanics like turbos. On the surface, they're a win-win. More power, better fuel efficiency, and a smaller engine that still feels quick. A little 1.5-liter turbo can make the same power as an old-school V6, and it usually burns less gas doing it. No wonder automakers are stuffing turbos into almost everything these days. But here's the catch. Turbos run hot. They spin at insane speeds, and they rely heavily on clean oil. Neglect maintenance and that turbo can fail catastrophically. And when it does, you're looking at repair bills that can rival the value of the car. That's why some mechanics look at turbos and just shake their heads, saying it's all about planned obsolescence. Car Wizard has seen plenty of turbocharged engines go the distance, 200,000 miles or more, when they're cared for properly. ChrisFix has also shown maintenance routines, like regular oil changes and letting the turbo cool down after hard driving, that can make them last much longer. But if you ask Scotty Kilmer, he'll tell you that while turbos are fun, they're just one more thing to break. His advice is usually to avoid them if you plan to keep a car forever. So the debate comes down to what you value. If you love spirited driving, want extra punch, and don't mind keeping up with maintenance, a turbo engine is a blast. But if you want a simple, low-stress powertrain that will run forever, a naturally aspirated engine is still the king of longevity. Number 9. Additives, fuel and oil. Another topic mechanics can't seem to agree on is fuel system cleaners, oil stabilizers, and friction modifiers. Some drivers swear these products saved their engines, while others call them nothing but snake oil. On one side, you've got people who truly believe additives can make a difference. Certain fuel system cleaners, like those with Techron, are proven to remove carbon deposits and help restore performance. ChrisFix has even shown on camera that using the right cleaner at the right time can smooth out a rough idle or improve fuel economy. And for older engines with some wear, certain oil additives might help reduce ticking or minor leaks. But then there's the other camp, mechanics who will flat out laugh if you bring up additives. Their argument is simple. If you're maintaining your car properly with quality fuel and regular oil changes, you don't need to dump mystery chemicals into your tank or engine. The truth is, both sides have a point. Some additives can genuinely help in specific situations, like cleaning injectors or dealing with carbon buildup. But a bottle of magic juice won't fix a neglected engine. So if you value experimenting and want that extra peace of mind, additives might be worth trying. If you'd rather save your money and stick with proper maintenance, you're not missing out on much. Number 10. Break-in periods. Finally, let's talk about one of the oldest debates in car ownership, the break-in period. For decades, new car manuals told owners to baby their engines for the first 500 to 1,000 miles. Avoid high revs, don't tow, and don't floor it. The idea was to let all the moving parts wear in smoothly for maximum longevity. But with modern engines, machining tolerances are much tighter than they used to be. Factories test engines before they're even installed, and some automakers don't mention break-in at all. That's why many mechanics say the old advice is outdated. You can drive your new car normally right from day one. Still, not everyone agrees. Car Care Nut, for example, has said that even though today's engines are built with precision, a cautious break-in still gives you the best shot at squeezing maximum life out of the motor. Things like piston rings, bearings, and seals still benefit from a gentle start, especially if you're planning to keep the car well past 100,000 miles. So once again, it comes down to values. If you want absolute peace of mind and don't mind babying your car for the first 1,000 miles, follow a traditional break-in.